Thank you for listening to the D&G Show, Life Experience. My name is Dennis Tambo, my wife.
Glennys Tambo.
So I was going to ask you a question. I'm very bluntly to say, how are your day? How was your day?
How was my day? My day was very occupied. So I had a lot of things to do throughout the day, running around, picking up and dropping off our son, and then going to my own appointment, and then going to a different appointment. And it was a very occupied.
You have a lot of errands.
I had a lot of errands to do, and I don't always have a lot of time to do them because I'm only off. I shouldn't say I'm off 3 days in a week, but I do volunteer in church, and sometimes, not every week, but yeah, I guess I have 2 days off. I don't know. Like everybody else. So, how was your day?
Okay.
That's it. Okay. The difference between okay and I had a lot of errands. You had a lot of errands too. You worked, and then you had other things that you needed to do with my car.
Yeah.
Check engine.
I just wanted to tell you, how would you deal with stress? And I mean,
you wanted to tell me, or you wanted a question? You had a question.
Yes, a question. How do you deal with stress? I am tired. Stress. How will you deal with stress?
How do you deal with stress? Because you obviously seem like you're a little stressed out today.
Obviously, everyone has stress,
Mm-hmm.
but everyone deals with stress very differently because everyone has a different mindset and different ideas on how to deal certain circumstances in their lives. And one of them is like a question was how you deal with stress. So it all depends on the situation and the circumstances and the time.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, my question was to you, how you deal with that stress.
Oh, and I turned it around towards you.
Yes.
Well, I can give the example of, let's just basically talk about how my car said ding, 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 and it had an alert. So it was stressing out that it needed attention. And so I called you, and then I told you it has an alarm and it's saying that it needs attention. And then you said, oh man, it needs an oil change before it breaks down. And I'm like, oh, so you resolved it. And you said, all right, I'm going to go get an oil change. So I think that, and I was like, thank God, because I don't want to do it. So I think it's first acknowledging what stress is, right? So I looked it up. Stress is the body's reaction to a challenge or demand and can be defined as a state of mental tension or worry caused by a difficult situation. It's a natural human response that can help people address threat and challenges in their lives.
So that's interesting. It says challenging. So I laugh because how can such a simple text be challenging to an individual? What makes, in other words, I'll rephrase this question, is that what makes it challenging through stress? Because some people make it such a simple task. It could be stressful for other people. So how can such a simple task be challenging and make someone stressful? Not everyone is the same. Obviously, people can handle stress, and even as a small or big amount of challenging their lives. But in most typical people, I won't say typical people, most generalizing that, let me speak for myself. a simple task could be very stressful for me, even though it's challenging. When you call me about the oil change, I just got upset. Not upset. I just got mad and frustrated because I've totally forgot about the oil change, even though we got to do something the next following day for travel. Not the next day, in a couple of days, we got to travel quite a distance.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's just, I guess, is that considered stress, or is it just too many things in my mind that's challenging within myself because there's so many tasks to do, and that you, on top of what you're telling me, I have to do another task on top of the things that I have in mind. So what is that called? Is it stress, or is it
stress? I just read it to you. It says stress is the body's reaction to a challenge or demand.
Okay, challenge. What is challenge, though?
Can be defined as a state of mental tension or worry caused by difficult situation. And then it says stress can cause a variety of feelings, including anxiety, fearfulness, frustration, helplessness, unease, or nervousness. So you were under stress not because it was just one thing. You were under stress because you had other things in your mind, like you just said, and it brought you a little bit of frustration because you're like, man, I had a certain plan. I had certain things that I needed to do. I already had these thoughts and I wanted to do these things. So that stress, it wasn't the fact that you needed to schedule an oil change. It was the fact that it was an additional thing that added to a situation, and your situation was that you had already other things that you had to plan.
Okay, so basically stress is generalized and many different levels of stress, which is challenging, anxiety, little tasks, I believe. So stress generalizes a lot. And based on someone's stressful, it could be a different type of level of stress then, I guess. That's the way my interpretation is.
Well, yeah. Well, the frustration was a feeling.
Yes, a feeling.
Right? And certain, like it talks about here, it says some physical symptoms of stress include aches and pains, chest pain, dizziness, exhaustion.
It's physical stress.
Headaches, high blood pressure, muscle tension, shaking, stomach, or digestive problems. So sometimes you can't even know that you're having stress and you're having these situations. I've seen some doctors even ask, like, if someone's having GI issues, or out of suddenly, like, did something happen to you that it just changed your mindset? So I'll give you an example. When my father was living, and he at one point was doing really, really bad, he was very sick, I went to Ecuador as an emergency. And my sister found a functional medical doctor, and he assessed him. He said, okay, well, we're going to help him in different ways. We're going to do some infusions naturally. We're going to put some saline. We're going to put some natural medicine with him. But we also need to identify what happened in his life that changed his body. And I was just like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, what originated his diabetes? Because he was diabetic. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, what? Disease can be manifested by stress? He was like, yeah, stress can bring diseases. And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. To fast forward, he eventually asked him, when did you get diabetes? And then he said, what happened before that? And then he started talking. So it was like, kind of like, it was interesting because it looked like a talk therapy. And my father, for the first time that I've seen him, started crying. And it hurt me to see him cry. But he confessed, he said that his grandmother, that he called mom because he was raised by his grandmother, had passed away. And since his grandmother passed away, he has never been the same. And then 2 years later, he was diagnosed with diabetes. And so your question, I want to go back to your question, is how do you deal with stress? And I kind of gave the analogy of the oil change alarm because it's a very simple way to kind of, because you've used it before, it's a very simple way to kind of see things like your body is going to give you certain alarms, is going to give you certain alerts that is going to say, okay, it's not going to say oil change, but it's going to say, hello, this needs attention, or hello, like you need to stop, you're doing too much, or whatever that might be. So the first thing is knowing that there's an alarm. That's how I would first deal with stress, knowing that I'm actually stressing. And then I would then sit and say, okay, well, what am I stressing about? And starting to reflect. I would also pray, ask God to help me to have discernment, clarity, to tell me like, okay, what do I need to do? I also surrender to God and say like, okay, well, God, there's certain things that I can do, but then there's certain things that I can't do. So I would do my part, whether it is to stop whatever I'm doing or start organizing things, structure things, communicate with you like I did that day. Talk to the family, talk to a therapist. But all those things I can do. The other things that obviously I can't do is I can't change certain situations, such as like our finances right now. I can't change that like in a big way, because not only it has to do with us, but it has to do with our culture, things that are happening in our country. But we can do our part, right? Or if it has to do with my health, and if I'm stressing and I'm starting to get certain diseases, then I need to stop and think, okay, what else do I need? What do I need to let go so I can start working on things that I need to work on myself? So, yeah. You seem a little bored, so I'm going to stop talking.
I'm just listening to you. I'm trying to concentrate.
If you're bored, then I don't think anybody else would like to listen to this. So, how would you deal with your stress?
Why are you putting yourself down?
I'm not putting myself down. I'm just trying to bring humor. Like our child sometimes like, what, are you bored?
All right. Okay.
What's going on with you?
Stress.
A little light into this world.
Stress. What I do is subconsciously, actually, it takes time for me to adapt the stress level, because I've never been taught how to deal with stress through my youth and adulthood. Through what I've seen growing up is my family always reacting to stress, responding to stress in a not a good way, but mostly in a negative way. So through my early 20s, late, and early 30s as well, I have seen my family responding to that. But after, years has passed, and I can see that my family starting to respond a little bit better than before. So saying that is how you respond to stress is more like, it's not easy to do, but at the moment that you feel some type of emotion, which is anger or anxiety or not a good feeling, let's put anger into that feeling. We tend to respond right away, because anger is just intense, such an energy that we have. Anger is energy elevating right now when you actually get triggered. That's why your whole body just gets hot. In other words, when you feel that way, you need to do something. Punch, run, do, or whatever, think. As for me, when I get into that point of stress, I start analyzing. Is it even worth it to get mad about? It's like, it's even, is there any type of reason for me to be getting that type of way? So in other words, I just acknowledge more I focus more on the solution than the problem. And it doesn't come easy, especially when you get triggered in a certain way through stress. But it all depends the type of stress it is, though.
Okay, so you respond in good ways. What are some good ways that you can respond? One of the things that you said was analyzing, right? So analyzing includes what to you?
Like, look into what you're stressing about. Is it what is that word? Oh my God.
Like reflect? Like
no.
Find a solution?
Not a solution. What is that? I keep saying this word today. No more. I was talking to someone. Is it worth it? In other words, is it for you worth it to get angry about it? Like, does it even matter? In other words, instead of just looking at the aspect of getting mad, why don't you just look into the solution aspect? Because there's nothing that you can do. It needs to be done regardless. You cannot just leave it that way. So what's the point of getting angry and so call it a wasting of energy of just focus on the negative side, which most people do. And I used to do that a lot, focus on the negative side. So I just I intend to do more of focus on the solution, even though I'm in that stage at that moment, not feeling some type bitter about it, but trying to focus on the solution and just say, okay, I still have to do it regardless. So what's the point of me getting mad for? Like, all right, I feel triggered. Okay, fine. But I just redirect my mind into like, there's no other way. We got to do it. That's the way I kind of, in that particular way, I can actually state that that's the way I handle in that type of level of stress. Obviously, there's other levels of stress, but in that level of stress, before it used to get me throughout the whole day, I used to get upset. I would already be not in a good mood.
Mm-hmm.
But now I can decrease that bad mood in a very short amount of time.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I felt it. Because I'm the one that is closest to you.
Yeah, so
if you become stressed out, I'm the one that feels it.
So I don't dwell with that stress. I don't dwell with it around there so much. Mm-hmm. I don't focus on it.
How else do you think that it's a good way of dealing with stress?
The only thing I could say is just that you got to be very self-aware a lot, most of the time, being self-aware of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, questioning all the stuff in your mind to why you're feeling a certain way, why you're getting mad, and what the situation is, instead of focusing what's outside, what you see from your eyes, or what you think, whatever you think it is, through your eyes. And through your eyes, I mean through your imagination of your mind as well too, because it creates scenarios. Your mind creates scenarios of things that has triggered you. So it creates something. That's what you see. And that's why people say you're seeing that. It's like you're seeing through your mind. But then you got to go to inner you, to what you're thinking of what you're seeing through you as well too.
How can you do that in a situation that you can't just sit and stop and reflect and meditate? Like, is there a way that you can prepare for it?
Well, it takes time, like anything in life. You gotta practice, study, constantly doing a kind of so-called a habit. When I find out something about that I need to do something, I tell myself repeatedly. I never believed in those things, but I do believe when you repeat something, your mind actually acknowledging it would respond to what you're saying because that's what you really mean. As long as that you mean it, that's what you want to do. Your mind automatically does it, and your mind is basically it's called so-called like dirt, and you put a seed in the dirt and it will basically grow whatever you give it. It's the same to mind. Whatever you give it, it will grow. So in other words, I will tell myself, you get, this gets you mad and it's not going to get you nowhere. It affects everybody around it. Just letting you know that's what happens when you get mad. Think about it. So when I get into that stage of being angry, I can reflect to what costs and what could affect other people in my surrounding. Do I really want that? So I live that moment after the fact that I was upset and I created a problem. And I live that moment how I feel. So I bring back to that when I'm stressed out, who else is going to get affected by it? And I relate to those things. Now, does that take to learn one day? No, it takes months and years to actually reflect in those things. For me, that's how I deal with stress like that. I have to reflect on it.
Do you agree that exercise helps with preparing for stressful situations?
Of course, especially when you're mad. Go downstairs or run, go out to release and think. It helps out a lot.
Yeah. I think that just like you said, in regards of creating certain habits, I think that if you do exercise, you are preparing yourself because exercise can be it's a good stress on your body. So you're preparing yourself for stress, but in a good way. And then it allows your body to respond to stress in a more ease, because like you said, you're creating a habit, right? So moving your body and it being stressed out in a good way, it kind of just sends a message. Your body sends a message to the brain and your heart, basically saying you're doing something good for yourself. And not only your heart, your lungs, so it helps you kind of manage your breath during stressful times. It also helps you manage like how much oxygen is going into your brain because you're breathing better. But it also manages your heart rate and also like your blood pressure, during a good stress, so that when and if there is bad and there is stress all the time for so many particular reasons, we can be challenged in so many ways, or demands can come to us, whether it's with our own children, whether it's between us, or a relationship outside of us, like our parents or our siblings, whatever. There can be certain situations that build stress in us and it gets us stressed out, or past traumas or whatever. So when those things happen, then your body can be able to respond if you exercise. So that's a good one. Anything else that you think that... I said prayer. That I deal with stress through prayer.
Yeah, sometimes.
The Bible, it says to pray about everything.
Yeah, so yes, prayer is very important as well. Allowing God to handle it, some situations that you're going through. And it gives you kind of relief, like saying that somebody else can handle and help you out with it. But you still have to manage the situation as well.
Mm-hmm. In the internet, I googled how to reduce some stress, and it talks about be aware of your smoking and drinking, like drinking alcohol. Obviously, what do you think about that?
I think it's because your mind is leading to something to be comfortable instead of dealing with this aspect of stress that you feel very uncomfortable with. So people intends to go to something that is ease to ease them, to calm them down. And alcohol is an addiction that makes you more open, more relief, more calm. You feel better when you're in that tipsy moment, but then some people go overboard of drinking way too much and feel that feeling of not feeling it sometimes. And I guess sometimes people go intense. That's why it's not good, because then it may get into addiction. Sometimes people go smoking something, nicotine that contains, and it makes them feel a lot better. It's all about a feeling to make them feel better, but instead of dealing with your own capable mind, which you could, it's a choice that if you want to, but it's not easy. It takes time in order for it to overcome those things. And the easiest way out is through drugs, through smoke, alcohol, because it's there at that moment that you can get it and easy it out, instead of learning how to discipline your mind and manage your mind, of how to construct that mental mindset of through stress. It takes time.
It takes work to manage or reduce stress in regards, and you're already stressed out. So you're going to work on reducing your stress. Sometimes it turns people off, rather than if you can drink or smoke, whatever, it kind of makes you feel a certain way. And then it gives you the facade that you are feeling some type of relief. But like you said, it's not resolving the problem. The issue or the situation or the demand or the challenge is still there. It's just making you feel a certain way.
At that moment.
Right, at that moment. But then after you're done with that, then the problem, the situation, the demand, the challenge, it's still there. It never went anywhere.
Yeah, that's why people tend to go to smoking or drinking.
Continuously.
Just to feel that moment.
Yeah, but it doesn't resolve anything. No. The other one that it talks about says get restful sleep. And I feel like this is important because resting can be taking some time off, taking a time to rest, to meditate, to stop what you're doing. So I think those things are key, important things.
Yeah, resting is very important.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, is there a situation that you can talk about in your life that you have gone through, physical, like a life situation that, when I ask you questions like this, I think of the time that you used to run marathons, or you used to cycle for so long miles. When I say when you were stressed out, or when you felt like the challenge or the demand was too much on your body, how did you feel that way? How did you acknowledge it? And then how did you handle it?
I didn't realize that obviously I don't like pressure. And what I mean by pressure, your body goes through an amount of stress that you want to stop. I can give you an example for the audience as well. It's like even when you're running, your body feels to give up, your muscles aching, or you're tired. In other words, you can barely breathe. At that moment, you want to stop. For me, and that point that's when I grow more, when I keep on going. Even it has to do a little 10 more steps after what I'm feeling. So I would put myself in that situation that I can't go no more. I would just push myself a little more. At least I know I advance more if I would have stopped at that moment. So for me, that's where I grow the most, when I get to that point. And do I like it? No, I don't like it. But it gives me that adrenaline kicking in and hypes me up, and I want to do it. But do I like to start? No, I don't. But I have to go through a process to get to that moment. In that particular moment, it's just maybe less than a minute or so. But even though I'm probably running for 40 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, just to get to that point. Just for that satisfaction.
Cool. Do you want to summarize? Or do you want me to
No,
summarize?
you know how to summarize pretty well.
Do you think it's time, or do you have another question?
No, that's good. I think you can summarize to how we can, how we dealt with stress. And
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we've had
Yeah.
many stressful situations, and we didn't say any of them right now other than you running. But so what we talked about was basically how to deal with stress. We basically deal with stress with prayer, prayer to basically, it's not like a continuous prayer or a consecutive prayer. It's basically you having just a conversation with God and asking if he can help you with knowing, having some clarity, discernment, and also if there's something that you need to surrender to, or what you need to receive, what you need to learn in this situation. And then responding in good ways, you said. How do we do that? We analyze, we reflect, we ask ourselves, is this worth it? So that also entices for you to stop and think. So you want to also focus on a solution rather than the problem. Redirect your mind to something that you can be able to do, not what you can't do or what you're going through. Deal with it and don't run from it. So dealing with it is a way that you can push through it. Plus, it makes you grow. It makes your character grow and builds your character and also your faith. You want to prepare for stressful situations, just like you have run a marathon. You just don't go run a marathon from one day to another. You do prepare for it, whether it's by getting restful sleep, eating right, exercising, creating certain habits. So creating good habits, practicing that, and to stop, think, and reflect. And then the last one was exercise. Exercise helps with your mental health, and it helps you just have clear mind sometimes. It helps you even stop in certain situations. So I hope this was helpful for today. And then maybe the next time that we sit and chat, we will sit and chat about a stressful situation that we have dealt with, and to deep dive in more on how to deal with stress.
Sounds great. Okay. Thank you guys for listening, and share the show. God bless you. Take care.
Am I making you mad?